Welcome once again to Let's Talk Marriage. This is Pastor Larry coming to you this Wednesday afternoon with Let's Talk Marriage. All right. I hope you are doing well. If you woke up this morning, you are doing well. I guess you didn't realize that. All right. We're going to get right on into our session on today. We're going to be talking about a phrase I'm pretty sure everyone has heard many a times. The phrase is happy wife, happy life. Now, when you hear that phrase, some people might think it's just a phrase, but it's actually a true statement. Because if you can keep your wife happy, the whole household is happy. You ever experienced, those of you that are married or been married for a little while, you ever experienced your wife in a bad mood or she's not feeling well? The whole household tends to follow a chord. They usually kind of quiet. Everyone's not talking. But when the wife's in a good mood, everybody's doing fine. Everybody's, the kids are it seems to be more happier. That's because even though the husband is the head of the household, the wife is actually the manager of the household. She's the one that runs everything. She's the one that makes sure, in most households, she's the one that makes sure the meals are cooked. She's the one that makes sure that the kids are fed. She's the one, primarily the one that gets up at night to tend to the babies. The husband might get up, but usually the babies usually want mama. So the mom is, and usually if the mom's in a bad mood, usually the baby takes suit and the baby starts getting whimpery, starts crying and stuff. So we as husbands have to make sure that we cherish our wives, make sure that we are. There's nothing wrong with catering to your wives. Wives should cater to their husbands as well. But the husband should, since we are the head of the household, we should make sure everything is going smooth for the wife. The ones with the smaller kids, there's nothing wrong with taking the kids off her hands for a minute to give her a breather. You don't want to come home and demanding things. You have some people that come home demanding things. Somebody ready, what do we having dinner? Take her out sometimes. It is a benefit for you as well because you don't have to really wait as long, and then you get a chance to go out. You get a chance to take them out, you get a chance to take the family out, and you get a chance to have that bonding time with the family. Make sure that we are not getting in heated discussions in our marriages, because when you get in heated discussions, no, you don't want to see your wife seem miserable, unhappy. Life is too short. We have to make sure that we are catering to each other. And the phrase happy wife, happy life does not mean that the wife is to be selfish or anything like that. That is not based on the wife being selfish. It just means that the husband is taking care of the wife. He's loving the wife as Christ loved the church. So we have to make sure that we are catering to the women folk in our, not just the wife. If you have daughters, make sure you cater to them too, and make sure you keep your daughters happy, because you want your daughters to see how a young man should treat them, once they start, dating and contemplating on getting married and things like that. You want them to see in you what they would like to see in a husband. So if you're treating your wife right, your daughter's gonna make sure that she finds someone that's going to treat her right. If you're yelling at your wife all the time, always causing arguments and always going neck to neck with her, you always got to be right, guess what? She's gonna be looking for the same type of guy. That's why a lot of times we find that people get into abusive relationships. That's because that's what they were brought up on. That's how they were raised. That's what they saw in the household, and they think that that's okay to be like that. But if you are brought up, I remember when my daughter was young, I used to take her out to different places and, breakfast and things like that. And I still do, like every once in a while we'll go out for coffee and stuff to let her know my daughter is grown, but that's to let them know that how a young man should treat them. Because you don't want your daughter getting in a relationship with someone that's no good. You want them to find someone. That's why you have to be a good role model as a husband and keeping your wife happy, because they look at their mom and they see the mom is happy, and then the mom can share some wonderful stories with the daughter, especially when she starts to date or thinking about starting to get married, or you can share wonderful stories of how you met your husband and things like that. And you don't want stories that are like a nightmare. You want to make sure that you are treating your wife right. And it's nothing wrong with I always say it on this show. I always say make sure that we are complimenting and loving on our wives. Make sure we tell them often that you love them, and make sure that they know that you love them. And then not only telling them that you love them, show them that you love them. Take them out every once in a while. Make sure you take them out of town every once in a while. Let me repeat that. Take them out of town every once in a while, because sometimes you tend to get feel comfortable just going in your nearby surroundings, but sometimes you have to go outside of the box and take her out of town and go on an actual vacation. And actual vacation does not mean you're going to see relatives. That's just going to see relatives. A vacation is something where you have it planned, and it's something that you don't do all the time. It's something you have planned. You have activities planned, with just your wife or with the family. Make sure that your kids get used to going out of town and not just hanging around. And because there's so much to see, even in this country, without even going outside the country. There's so many things to see here. And sometimes you don't have to go out of the state of Illinois. You can just go downstate or upstate or however you want to put it, and have a good time. So you have to make sure that we are loving on our wives, complimenting our wives. When they take the time to get their hair done or their nails done, make sure you notice that, because if you don't, you're going to hear about it. So make sure that when you're complimenting your wives, make sure you are loving on them, and there's nothing wrong with catering to them. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. So make sure that you keep your wife happy, because when you keep your wife happy, again they say, happy wife is a happy life. Because if your wife is miserable, the whole household is going to be miserable. You ever see the wife mad, everybody in the household is going to be quiet, and the meals ain't going to taste as good. As you can tell, when there's a lot of love been put in the meal, a lot of time been put in the meal, make sure you don't take that for granted. Sometimes we take our us as men, especially in the African American community, sometimes we take our wives for granted. We think they're supposed to do this, they're supposed to do that, but they don't have to do anything. They can just sit there just like you do. But make sure that we are working together as a family. And happy wife, happy life also means that you are working together, not just the husband doing everything to please the wife, or have the wife, create a selfish wife. It's not by all means having a selfish wife. You're having a wife that's a virtuous woman. And when you have a virtuous woman, it's going to show in your household. It's going to show in your home. It's going to show in your kids. When your kids go to school, they're going to have, great attitudes. They're not going to be one of the ones that's argumentative with teachers, argumentative on their little jobs, and argumentative when in their relationships, because they see you're argumentative. You see you're arguing with your husband all the time. So we have to make sure. Years ago, when you had argument, you didn't argue in front of. You tried not to argue in front of the kids. But even if you don't do that, they can still pick up things. They can still pick up when you're in a bad mood. Folks that know you can still pick up that you and your spouse been into it. They can still pick it up. So that's why we have to make sure that we keep our spouse happy. Later on in the program, we're going to be talking about how the wives are to treat their husbands. But right now, today, we're going to be we're talking about how husbands to make sure that we love on our wives. And I always stress that in this program. And again, and I mentioned again in the program that if you're in a relationship where you are not doing those things, sometimes it's because of something that you had from your past or something, again, chapters that weren't closed and from your past. So you have to make sure that you have a clean slate when you go into a relationship. And once again, my wife and I were talking, and we were saying that nowadays you have to make sure that you know these people before you get involved with them. Make sure you know them. Make sure you know every detail about them, because you never know what you're getting nowadays, because the world is just just a crazy place. So make sure that we are attending church. Try to make sure you attend church with your spouse. If you're not a church person, and you're okay, you're treating your wife right, and even though she might be go to church more than you do, make sure you at least go with her sometime. Yeah, even if if you don't go all the time, go with her sometime to give her that support. Especially if they have some kind of program, make sure you go to support us. To support them, because sometimes men feel like especially the ones that don't go to church, they feel like, well, I don't go to church, so I'm not going to go. Let her go. But so every once in a while, you can go with her, and just to make her feel special on special days, Mother's Day. You know how you do. Make sure that you're supporting them, to keeping the wife happy. And if she asks you to go to church, make sure you try to make an effort of actually going. Sometimes the wife asks, "Are you going to church today?" And your first answer is, "Oh no, you go ahead." Make sure that we as husbands, make sure we attend church with our wives, because it's nothing like seeing a complete family in church. It's an awesome thing when you see a complete family in the church. That's why it's important sometimes to have some kind of activities in church. Because some people they frown on programs, but you still need some kind of activities in the church to keep the husbands occupied. Like sometimes if you have a bunch of men in your church that's attending on a regular basis, and you actually get your husband to go out on one of the men programs, and he meets some of the guys and he might find out he has a lot of things in common with them. When he find out a lot of things that he has in common with them, he'll probably come more often. Like sometimes at one church I was going to, all the men, they would get together. Sometimes we would go fishing. Sometimes we had a men's retreat one time out in Wisconsin. It was. Yeah, we went out in Wisconsin, and we had a men's retreat, which was really nice. Things like that. So you have to make sure that you're keeping that part. That's a part of keeping your wife happy. Attending church with her. I know sometimes, especially the guys that are really into sports. Sunday is always a big sports day. You want to stay home and watch it. But most of the games, depending on what time your church get out, most of the games don't start until 1 or 2 o'clock. Most of the time, all morning they're talking about the game. You can skip that part where they're just talking about the game, and just go to church with her, and the game will be just getting started once you get home. So we want to make sure that we are keeping our wives happy, and that shows an example not only to the daughters. This show an example to the young men too, as well. Because if you have a son and he sees you always arguing with your wife, always bickering, always putting her down, always never complimenting her, guess what? He's going to do the same thing when he starts to get into relationships, and even when he gets married, he's going to be treating his wife the same way. So we as men have to be examples to the younger men, especially again in the black and brown community. We have to make sure that we are examples. We want to make sure that we don't give them an example every time something go wrong. You want to walk out, because they're going to feel like that's what they're supposed to do. When something go wrong in a relationship, they feel like they have to bail out the first time something go wrong. But sometimes you have to work at things. When you have a problem with work on it, because it's a lifelong commitment. And again, if you need to seek some kind of counseling, make sure you talk to someone. Even if you don't want to see professional counseling, speak with a couple that's been married a long time. Find out what they do when they have disagreements and things like that. What he does to keep his wife happy. Sometimes you'll be amazed at some of the stories they'll tell you, how they keep their wife happy and how they've been married so long. And make sure you seek those things out, because you want to make sure that again, this is a lifelong commitment, and we want to be examples to our young men, because there's so many young men out there that's going all around having kids all over the place, and you don't want your son to be one of the statistics where he's having kids all over the place and not making no commitment to no woman because he wants to be a player, and at 50 years old he's still thinking he's a player because he hasn't settled down. No. You have to make sure that we are doing the right thing and keeping our spouse happy and being good examples as men in the household, so that way our younger men will know how to treat, because that determines how the young men get along with their sisters as well. If they see you treating your wife with the respect, they're going to treat their sisters as respect. They're going to be protectors of their sisters, especially if they see the father, a protector of the mother, is going to start in the household, where the men will be protectors of the wives. So we have to make sure that we are examples as men to our younger men, because they need it, because there's so many young men are out there just running wild. Let's just put it that way. So as men, we have to make sure that we are examples, make sure that we are keeping our wives happy, and that goes around the whole family. Once you keep your wife happy, the young men will see how they're supposed to treat a young lady. They won't be dogging them out and calling them the B word, and and that's what seemed to be the thing now. It's in songs and stuff like that, and you want your young men to be gentlemen, to grow up as to be gentlemen. So it starts in the home, so you have to be an example to them. This is Pastor Larry. I'm going to be signing off right now until we meet again with Let's Talk Marriage. Now remember, all the music that you hear on this program is from an wonderful app called Whoop Triggers Plus. It's on the Android system and the Apple system. So make sure you check it out. If you have a church and you need musicians, use Whoop Triggers Plus. It is very beneficial. This is Pastor Larry. Until we meet again with Let's Talk Marriage. All right.